Welcome to my home studio build.
Baby, come and find me. I'm building my dream home studio. I'm gonna build it with these two hands. No matter where you are, where you wanna go, you should click to subscribe to my channel.
What's going on, guys? Adam Ivy, sellmusic.com, here with the first video in a series of bringing you guys along with me in my journey of building my dream home studio in the house that my fiance and I bought just a few months ago. Before we get into all of the different project specs and the vision for it and what we're going to be doing, I just want to kind of share my story with you guys because it's surreal to be sitting in here right now, to be quite honest with you. Back in 2007, I packed up all of my belongings that could fit in a 1994 Nissan Altima GXE, for those of you who might have been wondering, and I moved down to Orlando, Florida with $3,400 in my pocket, never traveling down here before, never visiting, never been on a vacation. I came down here on the recommendation of my best friend Zach, aka DJ DeVille, as I've shared with you on this channel before. Now, moving down here, I wanted to pursue a music career. I wanted to pursue a life doing music and shortly after doing YouTube and just being able to be creative for a living. Because where I'm from, in central Wisconsin, if you start talking about being creative or doing music for a living, they think you're crazy. Now, I might be a little crazy, but that's how I got to where I am today. Hard work bought this. Hard work bought this and everything that you see behind me. But that's not where I started. Hard work was just the byproduct of what I had to do to achieve anything in the music or YouTube or marketing realm anyway. What I'm getting at is when I first moved to Florida, the reason that this is so surreal to me is I slept on an air mattress for 10 months while taking all of the paychecks from a shitty day job working in a factory that I was making, I think $12 an hour. And I used all that money to buy gear, right? Tascam interface. What was it? A AKG microphone, AKG Perception 200, if I remember correctly, because back then it was a huge purchase for me. Ultimately, I saved 10 months to buy a refurbished 20-inch old school white iMac. And that's how I really got started. Now, fast forward to the apartments that I've had, fast forward to the rental houses that I've rented, and I've built home studios in each of those. I knew that they would work for the time being, but ultimately I had a vision. And this room, this space, what you're seeing behind me is ultimately what that vision is going to turn into. This room has actually come a long way since we moved in. When we moved in, the entire second living room, which is what you're looking at upstairs, was completely carpeted with some cheap contractor grade carpeting. And I know that rolling around my chair, my desk chair, and eventually I'm gonna have a table with casters on it and some lighting and stuff. I knew that that carpet would get tore up. I knew that that carpet, being a very light carpet, would get stained. We do have 2 dogs. I'm not saying they're dirty, but after a while with a lot of foot traffic and rolling around, you guys get it. So what I decided to do is get that all torn up, and we laid down a wood look porcelain tile up here, as you could see behind me. Now, what we also did right away is there was a ceiling fan in here somewhere, just a cheap contractor grade ceiling fan. We took that down, capped it, put a smoke detector in here because this room is going to be closed off. It's funny because where I'm talking to you right now with the setup, you're on the other side of the wall. I'm behind where the wall's going to be. As you can see over here, I have some glass French doors with blinds built in because with dogs, I don't want them kicking them around or causing any damage. And I also wanted to be able to what do you want to call it? I wanted to be able to control the light that's going to come from these windows into our main stairwell, our stair area, which you guys can imagine. With that being said, welcome to my home studio build. All right, guys, so from behind the camera, I have a little update. As you can see, the wall is framed out. It is sturdy as hell, and I have the 5/8" Soundbreak XP acoustically treated gypsum board, drywall, sheetrock, whatever you want to call it. Here is the details on that. Anyway, what I'm doing today is I'm using green glue, soundproofing sealant to caulk all the different gaps everywhere that I think that sound could travel through, including the bottom, including right up against the wall, as you see there. What we're doing is we're adding another layer of protection to just have everything ready for when I add the channeling, which is right here. And this is going to attach to the wall such as this. And then the sheetrock is actually going to attach into here and this is going to be attached via clips, but I'll show you all of that. So we have a bunch of these furring strips to attach the drywall, a bunch of drywall over there. And yeah, what I have to do now is I have to bring up, I think like 6 bundles of rock wool 2-inch insulation, which are going to be packing the cavities of this wall, just to add as much soundproofing as possible. All right, guys, so I came to a realization this morning that if I finish this wall without shooting any video, you guys aren't going to see the process. So shout out to my boy Ricky on the camera right now, helping me real quick, just showing you the process of what's going on before this wall is technically finished. Now, as you can see, if you want to follow me, cameraman, we have 2 layers of sheetrock on this side. Now, this is the Soundbreak XP board, 5/8 inch gypsum board, sheetrock, whatever you want to call it. And I'm doubling it up. I'm covering seams. All the seams are caulked with the green glue acoustic sealant. I'm not an acoustic engineer, so before you guys start roasting me in the comments below, just know that I'm doing what I'm doing based off recommendations, based off some experience, and based off of working directly with some people that are more specialists in that acoustic field. I'm a construction guy. I'm a carpenter by trade before I ever got into music. So this is fun for me to do. And after this wall is done, as far as the rough framing and the rough drywalling, I'm going to have a professional come in to mud everything to make sure that the texture on the wall matches the rest of the house. Because this is not only my home studio, but it's also an office space for me. It's also a production studio space for my YouTube videos. So I don't want it just to be this dark dungeon of a studio that you see in a lot of pictures. I want it to be multifunctional. Now, as you can see, I have a 1/4 inch gap, and I'll show you closer up on this. A 1/4 inch gap all the way around on the sides, the top of the ceiling, or up against the ceiling, and the floor. Now, why I do this is what we have this drywall mounted on a channel system, so it's not drilled directly into the studs. That gives it kind of a floating effect as far as breaking up audio waves, audio frequencies. Now, what I'm going to be doing is the drywall guy who comes and finishes this is not going to be mudding like traditional construction. You would mud from here to here, you bridge that gap, then make it seamless. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be using green glue acoustical sealant in all those cracks so that it's not a strong bond in between them, but more of like a rubber buffer in between the two, so there's still some movement. Now, obviously, it's not going to be a visual movement, nothing like that, but when the audio waves, when it's really booming in here, it's going to be able to hit that, and it's not going to be a hard surface on hard surface. It's going to give a little bit more, like I said, of a buffer. Now, as you can see on the side over here, now, quick shout out to my pups. They're both kind of sleeping on the other side of this wall right now. Daisy and Coda, it's probably a little hard to see them, but what we have on the side, I wanted to leave this open to show you. Now, this is going to be framed out for the door that's going to be mounted in just a few days, but this is going to be, especially with that second layer of drywall, it's going to be almost 7 inches wide. Now, you see the air gap and you see the bracket system, and I'll show you closer B-roll shots of that stuff. And then behind that is 4 inches of the rock wool that I put into the wall just a couple days ago. But overall, a traditional framed out wall, especially if it's not load bearing, is going to be 4 inches wide, 4.5 inches wide with the drywall. So this being almost 7 inches with that rock wool on the inside is going to stop acoustical waves, sound waves, audio from going into the house. I just don't want pollution, sound pollution going into the rest of the house when my fiance is watching TV, or when she's watching TV, I don't want it to be able to be heard in the studio. So if I'm booming in here, making some music, recording, doing podcasts, doing YouTube videos, teaching, hanging out, I don't want all of this audio to just be going down the stairwell, polluting the rest of the house. I want it to be a controlled surface, a controlled space rather. That's, like I said, I'm not a professional when it comes to the acoustic thing. I'm still learning every single day, even though I've been doing this for a long time. But this room is a blank slate once this door is in, once this wall is up. So this episode, the first episode of the series, is just to show you the rough framing out, how I turned a secondary living room into an office space. And then from there, we're gonna get to work with Brad over at Overtone Acoustics to really treat the hell out of this room. I'm talking cloud systems. I'm talking built-in integrated channel systems with the acoustic treatment. I'm talking about the pretty stuff, right? So last thing I wanted to mention before we end this episode is over here. Imagine this, and I showed you a little earlier, but imagine this is where my studio is going to be. My desk, my monitors, everything like that. Now behind me, I'm going to build out a full wall to hide the electronics, the cords, all of that stuff. It's going to be behind me. It's going to be about 6 feet wide. And behind that, I'm going to have a little lip so that the LED lights can shine up against the wall, up against the rock feature. And this will all make sense, I promise. But that's going to be framed out either today or tomorrow. I'm going to have the rock wool in that for a little extra sound absorbency. I'm not great with English all the time. But I wanted to bring you along. Now, if you guys have any questions at all for me, if you guys want me to do a video breaking down the cost of everything in this room, I want to know about it in the comments below. Now, if you want to see where I came from, I want you to click this video right here so you can see my old home studio from years ago to see the progress that I've made. Now, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel by clicking that little button and then smash that bell icon so you can be notified next time I upload a video just like this. And until then, I'll see you in the next episode.